I fucking knew it. I sighed softly to myself, picking up my phone to memorialize the event before leaving. I expected to catch her in a lie, not on what I eventually learned. There is no turning back from this. We won't survive this. Tracy. Her name seemed to portend trouble. I should have been more careful before marrying a man whose name seems to be made up from a soap opera. Parents who give such names are rarely strict in their upbringing. She arrived home more than an hour after me and, as usual, joyfully shouted, "Hello," and flew through the door. I was watching a boring game show with one eye, not really reacting. She didn't notice it. She was completely lost in her own thoughts, as she often had been in recent weeks. When the host was announcing the next prize, I heard Tracy casually toss her purse on the kitchen table. In just a month. This man acted quickly. By my count, she got close to him in less than 4 weeks. I watched, first with alarm, then with rage, then with detachment. Everything developed as per the script, until I got tired of waiting for the next step. That was the week when I decided it was time to put all the dots on the end, especially considering that she had only been working at her new job for 2 months. I even joked about it when she settled in. Old stereotypes about office affairs have become our topic for sarcasm. I asked with a serious look. Has there been any interesting news in the office lately? No, it's nothing special, Tracy replied, coming into the living room. Mostly paperwork, meetings, a bit of research. No, soap drama. You've only been there 7 weeks, but it's already clear that you have an unusual relationship in the team. These stories about romances at work are not just fiction, I said. What about that girl, Stephanie? Did you say that she might be in close contact with one of her partners? It turned out to be nothing special. She has a boyfriend, she talks about him all the time. I looked at her. Her style of clothing has changed a bit in recent weeks. More formally, but also with some confidence. At the time, it seemed to me just an adaptation to a new position. Well, maybe that's for the best. They say you shouldn't mix personal and work. It's not about us, is it? She chuckled. Maybe about us too, I said. I continued. It's funny to see how some gullible people get into confusing situations. Stories where someone senior uses their position to exert influence are always alarming. Do you think that this can happen? What is it? She asked. I think so. Especially when a person is older, more experienced, and knows how to manipulate. Says what the other side wants to hear. Exploits someone else's vulnerability. It still sounds far-fetched, she replied. So be it. But there are times when such a connection jeopardizes both your job and your reputation. People become vulnerable. It's not that simple. I paused. And if the relationship ends, one party may be left without a job and the other without consequences. She paused, then said, It all seems dramatized to me. Maybe. But anyway, I just wanted to hear that you're okay. Everything is calm, she replied softly. I grinned at him. Well, then, it's just my imagination. I'm just tired of boring everyday life. That night we lay in bed, facing away from each other. The silence between us was louder than any words. Of course, I felt her guilt and insecurity. Sleep came slowly, and I could tell that the same thing applied to her. I think she stared into the darkness for a long time that night, trapped in her own choice. She didn't know then, but it was her last chance. Perhaps one word would be enough, something with remorse, regret, or an expression of love. But she didn't say anything. I knew that by morning she would try to downplay the meaning of my words, because the alternative was too painful. But it will leave a mark. She will think that something can still be solved, although in fact everything has already been solved. The next day, her outfit looked more collected. It's too late, too little, my love. It's just another attempt to fix everything. Maybe someone would want to give it all back, but they wouldn't have to try too hard. Everything will change quickly. I resumed the role of a caring and calm person, but after a couple of hours I rang the doorbell with an envelope in my hand. The door was opened by a pleasant-looking woman who didn't look at all like someone who could be accused of something unpleasant. Yes? She said to me, Mrs. Weston? I'm afraid your husband will have to find a new assistant again, and I handed her the envelope. Before I left, I added, I don't know how you handle this, ma'am. I'm sure she took my hint. Her face grew sterner, and her hand tightened on the paper. All this only confirmed my assumption. This was not the first time something like this had happened. He acted confidently. When I looked back before I left, she was looking at the photo, and there was something heavy in her gaze. Tracy came home early that day and looked unhappy. And why should I be unhappy? There were no children, finances were separate, the apartment was rented. I packed up and left. I was already sitting in my friend's kitchen complaining about my ex. They offered to stay with them for a while. We even watched Tracy coming home. She looked lost. The security system she insisted on installing suddenly turned out to be useful. She sat in the car for a long time, then slowly walked to the door. She looked depressed. She certainly had doubts when she left for work, and she probably guessed that I knew everything. She went into the living room, looked at the attached photo, stood for a moment, then left. Alyssa and I had a little laugh, which made me feel better. I didn't bother to find out what had become of Weston and his wife. It was their story, not mine. I quickly found a new place to live and furnished it in my own way. I immersed myself in my work and began to communicate with my friends more often. Sometimes I missed her, but I knew that I had done everything I could. About a month later, we met. It wasn't for us, but for her parents, who were always kind to me. They wanted us to talk. She looked depressed. We were silent for a long time before she said, "Everything happened almost exactly as you predicted. I've ruined everything, haven't I? What do you think?" I snapped, then pulled myself together. "Look, from the moment you betrayed me, everything was over between us." She tried to justify herself. "I didn't mean to." Don't. Don't make excuses. You knew what you were doing." She looked at me sadly. "I really knew it was wrong. It just got out of control. I've been good to you. I could have done something else, but I left you the opportunity to leave with dignity." She just said, "I was going to finish everything." No. Maybe that's what you told yourself, but it wasn't true. "I really knew I was doing something wrong," she said, looking at me sadly. "I saw you. There was no expression of remorse on your face when you were in his office together. I already realized that you were in close contact with him, but when I saw this, I just wanted to catch you in a big lie, to find something specific that I could point out. I didn't really expect to see what I saw." "I'm sorry you saw that," she looked away. "You call it just a physical connection. Please understand, this is not an excuse. This is another one of those lies that people tell themselves. If it was really just an attraction, you wouldn't be ruining our marriage. What does it feel like to have a secret? To think that you have something over me? To keep a secret and look at me, knowing that you violated our agreement?" Her eyes widened, and I think she realized something unpleasant about herself. "I tried to give you a chance anyway, even knowing all this. Even after I told you how it would end. I know it knocked you out of your rut, but if you had confessed then, with complete frankness, I might want to give it a try. You knew everything then, didn't you? But at that moment it would have been like a last prayer. I don't think I could even if I wanted to. Not after what I saw. Is there really no chance?" "What is it?" she asked with a pleading look. To be honest, there was no hope in her eyes, but she needed to ask. "No," I replied sadly. "Okay," was her only response. She lowered her head again. After a moment, she muttered, "I should have asked. I'm sorry, you know. I'm sorry for all this, for every second. I do not know what was happening to me then. It was as if I had entered another reality. But I want you to know that I'm really sorry." She looked at me with eyes full of pain. "I know it won't change anything, but I'm really sorry." And that was the end of it. After that, I said goodbye to her parents. Her mother looked at me hopefully, as if changes were still possible. She asked if I would stay for dinner. Her father seemed to understand that it was over. He shook his head gently, not even waiting for my words. "Nothing could heal what Tracy had done to our marriage," he said. "Thanks for coming. Good luck." We agreed to divorce because of irreconcilable differences. There was no point in complicating things. We had no joint property, and there was no reason to meet again. About 6 months later, I saw her in a store. She looked thinner, but healthier and clearly more relaxed than during our last meeting. To be honest, I was surprised. She had a degree. She could leave and start over. Perhaps not the most successful life decisions are her habit, which I hadn't noticed before. Maybe I was one of them myself. It's probably not easy for her. What about me? By that time, I had almost forgotten her emotionally. I had a good job, a promising new girlfriend, and most importantly, I was free. She lowered her head again. After a moment, she muttered, "I should have asked. I'm sorry, you know. I'm sorry for all this, for every second. I do not know what was happening to me then. It was as if I had entered another reality. But I want you to know that I'm really sorry." She looked at me with eyes full of pain. "I know it won't change anything, but I'm really sorry." And that was the end of it. After that, I said goodbye to her parents. Her mother looked at me hopefully, as if changes were still possible. She asked if I would stay for dinner. Her father seemed to understand that it was over. He shook his head gently, not even waiting for my words. "Nothing could heal what Tracy had done to our marriage," he said. Thanks for coming. Good luck. We agreed to divorce because of irreconcilable differences. There was no point in complicating things. We had no joint property, and there was no reason to meet again. About 6 months later, I saw her in a store. She looked thinner, but healthier and clearly more relaxed than during our last meeting. To be honest, I was surprised. She had a degree. She could leave and start over. Perhaps not the most successful life decisions are her habit, which I hadn't noticed before. Maybe I was one of them myself. It's probably not easy for her. What about me? By that time, I had almost forgotten her emotionally. I had a good job, a promising new girlfriend, and most importantly, I was free.